Um, I think for me the first thing which I saw was Zaha Hadid's work. So it's very hard to pinpoint one of her favorite works, but I think the Hyder Aliyev Center would be my favorite. And I think that was one of the reasons being one of the first buildings which I saw and which got me into architecture. So that was that shocked me a little, and that was one of my favorite buildings ever. Zaha. So, but right now I'm a little bit more into Bjarkingels, mainly because the way he works and the way he conducts his firm and his inner workings. Basically, I've been stalking him a lot, so I like the way he works, the way his firm functions, and there is like a slight debate going on inside my head whether Zaha or Bjark. So I am a little confused about that. These are like my two babies. I'm not sure which one to pick. So Zaha's work, yes, definitely she was my favorite, but now Bjark is slightly taking over. So again, it depends. Um, the that question really always startles me. So the reason I couldn't choose either of them is the reason why I started voice texture, which is basically which brings beatboxing and architecture together. So I am working on a couple of projects which fuses beatboxing and architecture, where we use beatboxing as input data to design buildings. So I since I couldn't choose both, I had to mix each other. So pineapple or pizza, pineapple pizza. So that's a weird combination, but yeah, I still had to like it. So yeah, I can't choose between one or the other. A lot. One of the reasons why I took up architecture was basically the similarities between beatboxing and architecture. For example, both are creative, both require you to. So, architecture, strictly speaking, the industry, the skill, and the way you market yourself or you showcase yourself as an architect matters a lot. So, even that applies. The same applies to beatboxing as well. So the beatboxing part of it is really small, but the back end work which goes into it, like branding yourself as an artist, spreading your art form, the same applies in architecture. The actual design part of it is very quick and easy, but the background work that needs to be done, for example, just many people ask this question sometimes. So how come you can design an entire building in one day? But they don't realize that just to get that building out in one day, I had to spend 5 years of my life to understand or get to that level. So that way there are a lot of similarities between the creative aspects of beatboxing and architecture. Architecture. So design, I would rather call architecture design, because I don't know, I feel more comfortable as a designer rather than architect, because all the things which I do, it's more into design. So I would rather be called a designer than an architect. That's hard to, because one of the reasons why especially Zaha's work inspired me was it was very fluidic, and at least for me, I imagine a lot of things. So when I saw these buildings, they were actually in a way very musical. So any of her buildings like could be related to music. The flow and the fluidity of her buildings and her works and her ideas are just on a whole new level. So if I had to relate music and architecture, it would definitely be any of Zaha's work, apart from all the inorganic ones. But any fluidic work of hers is a pure, most relatable to music actually. Oh, No, those are two of my babies again. But any form which is helpful to a particular function, I would choose that. So, you anything which is just form or function, they can't stand by or they're not sustainable in the long run. So, any form um, compared to the aesthetics, the higher priority would be your function. So unless it doesn't satisfy the function, it's just a folly, or which is just something which you stare at because you can't use it technically. So any form which stresses on satisfying the particular function of what it is designed for, I would say that's a good enough combination or a mixture of both. Again, my ego kicks in and wants me to say me, but so for me, I take a lot of influences. One reason being, I don't stick to one inspirational thing as such. So the way I work is basically I get inspired by the smallest things. So even as I mentioned, the way I got into architecture, it was one friend by one walk who said there's no maths in architecture, and I just took that up because I make decisions that way because it helps me to be very intuitive. Even my beatboxing performances, I don't stress a lot on making that set and following that particular set. For me, the crowd basically gives me a better idea of what they need and what they want me to do. So that gives me a better idea. So the same thing applied to architecture as well. I always make it very intuitive as possible. So for me, it's a lot of at the moment what is the best thing that can happen. That seems to be the best way forward. Oh, creative satisfaction any day. So even in the movie Three Idiots, so they basically say that go for the bigger product. So I always approach all my tasks in the form of triangles. So or basically your food chain or something like that, where basically the top pyramid which you work for should be your creative satisfaction. Every other thing, your money and all that, is simply a byproduct of that particular set of tasks or whatever you're trying to aim for. So for me, it's happiness, the creative freedom. I really it whatever makes me happy. So even during design class, shout out to Anil Dubey sir. So he was basically he cut my building model, which I spent days working on. But I was happy that he did that. So I started laughing loudly during when he was cutting my building model. So he was like, "Have you gone mad?" So I was like, "No, sir. I'm actually happy that you're revising and making a better vision of what I had in mind." So that way, creative satisfaction any day compared to the amount of work put in. So if it makes my work or anyone's work a little bit better, the amount of work gone into that shouldn't make a difference, because in the long run it doesn't matter at all, and the money will anyways follow. It's a simple exchange of paper. I'm not on this planet to exchange paper or money with people. I'm here to be happy. So, and that satisfaction is what gives me the happiness. So creative satisfaction is the easiest option in that. Is good, but it can be way better. Especially a lot of elements can be improved, and the situations for architects themselves need to be improved. So the more creative freedom architects have, so there's a lot of difference between what actually happens in architectural schools and what you actually face in your industry. So to bridge the gap, or if there can be a solution to bridge the gap between the school experience and your industry, that will be the greatest thing ever. So actually, if so for example, even the projects which we see outside India, there's so much of scope for architects. It's not like, even they are forced to build choco block structures and all that. So here you're asked to do that because of so many other constraints that your creativity goes bonkers. There's no creativity left. So I can understand why architects would do that, but I would strongly urge whatever factors there are, be it the economic constraints or whatever there is, because in the long run, this is ultimately what will build our country as such. It's not going to be because of choco block structures or washing machines or whatever that is. I hope the architects got what I meant by washing machines. Um, oh, sentence. Okay, cool. So we have many words. Um, Egotistical, hardworking, clever, very intuitive, improvises a lot, um, learning how to be mature, the most immature person you'll ever meet. But I don't know if this is, yeah, this is more than one sentence, but bear with me. I always take extra sheets to answer, so that is my style. But I'm trying to, but not successful in being mature. So, but I choose immaturity over maturity any day because that helps me think like a kid, which is way more creative than what adults are, and it's scientifically proven as well. So that kids are more creative than adults. So I choose being a kid any single day. So DERT Lab is a company which is going to be launching on Feb 16th, 2019. It's basically an integrative platform which brings design, education, research, and technology. So DERT. The main intention why I started DERT Lab was basically to bring people to create something new, whatever it is, whatever they want to create. But the idea is to create something new, and the motto has, even my motto has always been to better the world one beat and one design at a time. DERT, Design, Education, Research and Technology, DERT Lab. So we are a laboratory of mad scientists and designers who come together to create something new. Anyone, it can be, if you want anything related to design, get in touch with us. If you want, basically I'm all in for sharing knowledge as well. So if you want me to conduct these workshops, get in touch. If you want to collaborate, we call all designers to come and join us. Basically we believe in the collaboration. This is the era for collaboration. People don't want to work for someone, they want to work with someone, and we want to encourage that as much as possible. So if you want to work with us, come on board. So you can contact us for all those things.